"How dare you assume I don't belong here?" Amara Jackson's voice sliced through the sterile hum of Chicago's Meridian International Airport, her eyes blazing as she faced the first-class check-in counter. At 6:45 a.m., Terminal 2 shimmered with dawn light on marble floors, but the air crackled with tension. Karen Holt, the airline agent, froze, her tight blonde bun quivering as Amara held up her phone, the first-class boarding pass glowing defiantly. A storm was brewing in Amara's silence, one that would unravel an empire. If you believe dignity demands a fight, hit that like button, share this story, and subscribe for more true inspired tales that ignite change. Amara, 42, stood poised in a tailored gray suit, her silk blouse catching the soft glow of overhead lights. Her leather carry-on rolled smoothly behind her, its rhythm steady like her heartbeat. No logos, no flash, just quiet power. She'd built Novatech from a cramped Chicago apartment into a global tech giant, learning early that real strength didn't shout, it moved in silence, often underestimated. But Karen's words, "Economy's that way, ma'am," cut like a practiced blade, sharp and casual, meant to dismiss. Amara's jaw tightened, but she didn't flinch. She'd faced this before, in boardrooms and banks, where her black skin seemed to invite doubt. "First class," Amara repeated, her voice even, holding out her phone. "Flight 204 to Tokyo, seat 1A. Karen's eyes flicked over her, once, twice, then narrowed. She didn't touch the phone, instead her fingers tapped her keyboard, each keystroke slow, deliberate. "I'll need a supervisor," she said into a landline, her tone low, almost smug. "We have a situation." A situation. The word hung heavy, a quiet accusation. Amara's posture didn't shift, but her eyes flickered with something cold. Passengers glanced over, their coffee cups pausing mid-sip. The terminal's soft jazz felt mocking now, a veneer over the tension. To Amara's left, a white man in a pinstripe suit stepped to the next counter. Karen's face transformed, her smile warm, her voice bright. "Good morning, sir. Welcome back." No ID check, no questions, just a printed boarding pass handed over with a nod. He glided through, untouched by scrutiny, his briefcase unopened. Amara lowered her phone, her silence louder than any protest. She'd walked this path before, through rooms where her presence was questioned, her competence doubted. Karen glanced at her, unsettled by the stillness, but Amara stood, waiting. The air grew thick, the wrongness palpable, whispering, "You don't belong." Amara moved toward the TSA pre-check line, her carry-on clicking rhythmically. The line was near empty, a perk of first class. She scanned her boarding pass, placed her bag in a bin and removed her shoes. Then, "Ma'am, step to the left," random screening. The TSA agent's voice was flat, his eyes avoiding hers. Amara glanced at the three white businessmen who'd passed through untouched, their suits crisp, their bags unopened. In the random line, a black couple, a Latina grandmother, a Sikh man. Random. Her briefcase, unzipped, sat askew in the bin, its contents slightly shifted, tampered with. She nodded, compliant, and removed her watch. A custom Vacheron Constantin, a gift to herself when Novatech went public. Not just a timepiece, but a symbol of her climb. The scanner beeped, predictably. A male agent, broad-shouldered, motioned her aside. "This won't take long." His gloved hands lingered, too firm, too long, over her arms, waist, legs. Amara stood stone still, not because she was fine, but because she knew the cost of flinching. One wrong move and she'd be difficult. Her voice erased. The pat-down ended. She reached for her bin. Empty. Her watch was gone. Her heart jolted. Not panic, but a restrained fury like static in her veins. "Excuse me," she said calmly to a nearby agent. "My watch is missing." He shrugged, barely looking. If it was there, it had come through. She pressed. "I placed it in the bin myself. I'd like to see the footage." His eyes rolled. "You'll need a supervisor." For 15 minutes, Amara stood by the conveyor belt, repeating herself, firm, not loud. Agents suggested she'd forgotten the watch or misplaced it. She didn't budge. Then, a young TSA worker, Liam Chen, approached. Clean-shaven, mid-20s, his badge gleamed. He glanced at the bin, then at a side table where lost items piled up. Moments later, Liam returned, holding a velvet pouch. "Miss Jackson," he said softly, opening it to reveal her watch. Amara exhaled, not in relief but in confirmation. Liam hesitated, then whispered, "You're Amara Jackson, right? From Novatech? My brother's a coder. He idolizes you." His small smile hinted at her influence, a crack in the morning's hostility. Amara nodded, slipping the watch onto her wrist. "Thank you," she said, her voice soft but steady. The touch of strangers still clung to her skin, but the watch ticked on, a reminder she was unbroken. At Gate 12B, Amara arrived early, her composure intact despite the detours. The boarding sign flashed, Flight 204 to Tokyo, first class, now boarding. She stepped forward, pass ready, but overheard Karen, now at the gate desk, whispering to a colleague, "Fake tickets are common. People try to sneak in." The words were meant to be private, but they landed like a slap. Amara's grip tightened on her carry-on, her knuckles whitening. The gate agent, Paul Vance, graying and tired, scanned her pass, then frowned. "This ticket's unusual," he muttered, tapping his screen. "Unusual?" Amara's voice was calm, but her eyes were steel. Paul didn't look up. "We'll need to verify it," he said, reaching for a phone. "Security, Gate 12B." Amara felt the air shift. Passengers glanced, some smirking, others whispering. Karen's smirk grew, her arms crossed. "We can move you to economy while we sort this," Paul offered, as if it were a favor. Amara's fingers brushed her watch, its steady tick grounding her. She straightened, her voice clear like a stone dropped into still water. "I'll wait right here for my first-class seat." She stepped aside, not away, her carry-on upright, her arms folded. The storm hadn't hit, but the winds were rising. Amara Jackson wasn't just a passenger, she was a force, and Horizon Airlines had no idea who they'd underestimated. Small acts of bias like Karen's words or Paul's doubt piled up, but Amara's resilience shone brighter. She refused to shrink, her silence a spark that would ignite change. If her story moves you, share it, because every voice matters and every stand counts. Amara Jackson stood by Gate 12B, her arms folded, her chin lifted, as the Meridian International Airport buzzed around her. The sterile glow of fluorescent lights clashed with the warmth of her resolve. Passengers whispered, their eyes darting between her and the Horizon Airlines desk. The boarding sign flickered, but Amara's focus was unshaken. Her past had forged fire within her, one that burned brighter with every slight. If you've ever faced a moment where you had to stand tall, hit that like button and share this story, because resilience is built from struggle, and Amara's was a flame that wouldn't fade. At 14, in a cramped Chicago apartment, Amara knelt on a frayed rug, a discarded computer tower before her, its wires spilled like veins, dusty and dead. Her mother, Lena, worked nights cleaning offices, her pay barely covering rent. Amara found the tower in a dumpster, dragging it home like treasure. With a library card and a second-hand manual, she took it apart, screw by screw. That machine wasn't just metal, it was possibility, a way out of nights with no heat and dinners of boxed noodles. She didn't know it then, but she was building her future. Back at the gate, Paul Vance, the agent, muttered under his breath, probably a stolen ticket. His words carried, sharp and careless, drawing stares from nearby passengers. A man in a polo shirt raised an eyebrow, his coffee cup pausing mid-sip. Amara's knuckles whitened on her carry-on, but her face stayed calm. She'd heard worse, whispers in boardrooms, doubts masked as questions. Paul tapped his screen, avoiding her gaze. Karen Holt, now beside him, folded her arms, her tight bun gleaming under the lights. The tension grew, a quiet cruelty wrapping around the gate like fog. Amara's mind drifted to 18, when college rejection letters piled up on her kitchen table. 10 top schools, 10 no's. "While your grades are impressive, we seek candidates with broader pedigree," one read. Pedigree, the word stung, a polite way to say she didn't fit their mold. Her perfect SATs, her nights studying while classmates partied. None of it mattered. She wasn't the right kind of brilliant. Amara enrolled at a state university, working 2 jobs to pay tuition, her dreams battered but unbroken. Those rejections didn't stop her. They sharpened her hunger. A young woman in a hoodie, phone raised, started filming Amara, her lens catching the scene like a spotlight. "She's causing trouble," she whispered to her friend, assuming Amara couldn't hear. The video's red dot blinked, a tiny judge in the crowd. Amara's heart twinged, not from shame, but from the weight of being seen yet unseen. Passengers shuffled, some smirking, others looking away. The gate felt smaller, the air heavier, as if the walls themselves leaned in to watch. Amara stood taller, her silence a shield, her watch ticking steadily on her wrist. At 24, in a sleek corporate office, Amara built an algorithm that saved her tech firm millions in logistics costs. The open-plan space buzzed with ping-pong tables and cold brew taps, but the disruptors running it, white, male, Ivy-educated, barely noticed her. When she presented her work, her boss Greg smiled. "Great team effort," he said, taking credit in front of the board. Later, when Amara corrected him, he laughed. "That attitude won't get you far." She was passed over for promotion twice. The betrayal burned, but it taught her, if she wanted power, she'd have to claim it herself. Security arrived, 2 officers, their radios crackling. "Ma'am, we need to verify your ticket," one said, his tone flat. Amara's voice was steady, like a river over stone. "Verify it then. I'm not moving." The officers glanced at Paul, who shrugged, his frown deepening. Karen whispered something to a colleague, her eyes glinting with smugness. Amara's presence was a challenge they didn't expect, a woman who refused to shrink. Passengers leaned forward, phones out, the gate now a stage. Amara's calm was a weapon, her dignity a quiet rebellion against their doubt. At 28, Amara founded Novatech in her 600-square-foot apartment. The walls were thin, the heat spotty, but her vision was clear. With 3 friends as her first employees, she built software that revolutionized corporate travel. They worked for equity, not pay, fueled by cheap coffee and big dreams. Investors scoffed. She was too young, too black, too female, but Amara didn't wait for permission. She coded through nights, pitched through rejections, and turned Novatech into a name whispered in tech circles as the next big thing. That tiny apartment held the seeds of an empire. Karen's smirk grew as she leaned over the desk, whispering loudly, "She'll back down soon." The words were a dare, a miscalculation. Amara's eyes met hers unflinching, and Karen faltered, her confidence cracking. The gate's hum faded, replaced by the weight of Amara's stillness. Passengers shifted, some filming, others murmuring. Paul picked up a phone, mumbling about procedure. The officer stood awkwardly, unsure. Amara's watch ticked on, a reminder of what she'd earned, what she'd fought for. Karen thought she'd won, but she'd only lit the fuse. Amara's phone buzzed, cutting through the tension like a blade. The screen read, "Nia Brooks, COO." She answered, her voice low. "Nia." A pause. "Amara, we're ready," Nia said, her tone urgent. "The Tokyo deal's on the line, your call." Amara's eyes flickered, a plan taking shape. "Initiate Omega Protocol," she said, her words measured, final. Nia exhaled. "Understood." The call ended and Amara placed her phone down, her face unreadable. The gate's chaos felt distant now. She was orchestrating something bigger, a reckoning Horizon couldn't imagine. The struggles of Amara's past, her mother's tired eyes, the rejections, the stolen credit, had forged a fire that burned steady. At Gate 12B, she wasn't just fighting for a seat. She was challenging a system that thrived on dismissing people like her. Her resolve, born from years of pushing through, was a lesson. Past pain builds strength to face today's injustices. If Amara's stand stirs something in you, share this story. Let's honor the quiet warriors who rise unbroken and inspire us all to keep fighting. The air at Gate 12B of Meridian International Airport was electric, charged with whispers and the weight of Amara Jackson's defiance. Her phone call had set something in motion, a spark ready to ignite. The sterile terminal, with its flickering boarding signs and cold lights, felt like a stage where a reckoning was unfolding. Amara stood tall, her gray suit a quiet armor, her watch ticking like a heartbeat. If you've ever felt the world try to dim your light, hit that like button and share this story. Because Amara's fight shows us how one voice can shatter a broken system. Then it happened. The departure screen above Gate 12B flickered once, twice, then went black. A gasp rippled through the crowd. Paul Vance, the gate agent, tapped his tablet frantically, his frown deepening as the screen stayed dark. Amara's eyes didn't waver. She stood still, her calm a stark contrast to the rising panic. The airport's hum faltered. PA systems cut off mid-announcement, static hissing briefly before silence. Passengers looked up, confused, their phones buzzing with failed app updates. Horizon Airlines' entire system was crumbling, and Amara knew why. Paul muttered, "Systems frozen," his voice shaky. He pressed buttons harder, as if force could fix it. Nearby, Karen Holt's smugness faded. She chewed her lip, her eyes darting to Amara. The security officers, still lingering, exchanged glances, their radios now silent. A woman at gate 13 called out, "My boarding pass won't load!" The chaos spread like wildfire. Luggage belts stopped. Check-in kiosks blinked off. Passengers stood, murmuring, some filming the dark screens. Amara's silence was deafening, a calm center in the storm she'd unleashed. A college student in a beanie, laptop open, nudged her friend. "Wait, is that Amara Jackson, the Novatech CEO?" Her friend squinted, then gasped. "She was on Wired's cover last month." Heads turned, phones lifted, the whispers growing louder. Amara didn't move, but her presence grew, filling the gate like a rising tide. The student typed furiously, pulling up an article. Amara Jackson, tech titan redefining travel. Passengers leaned in, their skepticism shifting to curiosity. Karen's face paled. She hadn't expected this. Amara stepped onto a metal chair, her movements deliberate, graceful. The gate fell quiet, all eyes on her. "Some of you are wondering what's happening," she said, her voice clear, steady. "The screens are dark, the system's down. You've seen me wait while others boarded." Her gaze swept the crowd, meeting curious, skeptical, and nervous eyes. "My name is Amara Jackson, founder of Novatech." A murmur spread. Someone gasped. Another whispered, "That's her?" Amara paused, letting the name settle like dust. "I'm not just a passenger," she continued. "I'm the largest individual shareholder in Horizon Airlines, holding 30% of this company." The silence snapped. Gasps erupted. Phones rose higher. Live streams flickered to life. Paul's tablet slipped from his hands, clattering to the desk. Karen stepped back, her arms dropping, her confidence gone. A man in a golf shirt whistled low, shaking his head. Amara's words landed like thunder, each one cracking the facade of Horizon's authority. The gate was no longer a waiting area. It was a courtroom, and Amara was judge and jury. Then, through the crowd, a figure emerged. Edward Klein, Horizon's CEO, silver hair and polished in a navy suit. Flanked by assistants, he moved with practiced charm, his smile honed for boardrooms and press conferences. "Ms. Jackson," he said smoothly, not waiting for an introduction. "This is clearly a misunderstanding. Horizon values all passengers." His voice was warm, but his eyes were calculating. Passengers filmed, their phones capturing every word. Klein's assistants hovered, one whispering to a press aide. Amara didn't smile back. Her gaze was steel. "Mr. Klein," she said, stepping down from the chair, her voice cutting through his polish, "you should know who you're addressing before offering empty apologies." She reached into her suit pocket and pulled out her phone, its screen glowing softly. "I have an email sent 2 weeks ago by your staff about my presence on this flight." She tapped the screen, her movements calm but deliberate. The subject line reads, "High-profile passenger, monitor closely." It says, "If it's her, watch out. Some people overstep their place." Gasps rippled through the gate. A woman covered her mouth, whispering, "They wrote that?" A man shook his head, muttering, "Unbelievable." Klein's smile faltered, his tie suddenly too tight. "That's confidential," he stammered, his voice thin. Amara ignored him, her eyes locked on his. "This wasn't a mistake, Mr. Klein. It's your policy, exclusion dressed up as procedure." Her words hung like smoke, heavy and undeniable. Passengers leaned closer, their phones steady, the truth spreading beyond the gate. Klein shifted, his hands adjusting his cufflinks, but his charm was crumbling. Amara stood taller, her voice steady. "Your systems, your culture, they're built to push people like me aside, but you picked the wrong day." She locked eyes with him, her calm a blade. Paul stared at his dead tablet, Karen at the floor. The gate's silence was heavy, broken only by the soft clicks of filming phones. Amara's fight wasn't just hers. It was for everyone who'd been dismissed, doubted, erased. The Omega Protocol had done more than crash systems. It had exposed a truth Horizon couldn't hide. Amara's power, born from years of being overlooked, showed that systems built on bias can be broken by those they underestimate. If her courage moves you, share this story. Let's amplify the voices that rise against injustice, proving that one spark can light a fire for change. Gate 12B at Meridian International Airport pulsed with raw energy, the silence after Amara Jackson's words heavy with truth. Her revelation, shareholder, email policy, had cracked Horizon Airlines' polished facade. Passengers clutched phones, their live streams beaming the scene worldwide. Edward Klein, Horizon's CEO, stood frozen, his silver hair catching the harsh light as Amara's gaze held him accountable. The gate was no longer a checkpoint, it was a reckoning, a space where the dismissed found their voice. If you've ever felt unseen, hit that like button and share this story, because when one stands, others rise, and together we rewrite the rules. A woman in her 50s, sharp in a black blazer, stepped forward. Her voice was steady, weary. 20 years flying Horizon, she said, and every time security opens my bag, every time. Her eyes locked on Karen Holt, who shrank behind the desk. The crowd murmured, heads nodding. Amara listened, her face calm but her heart stirred. This wasn't just her fight anymore. The woman's words, simple and raw, echoed Amara's pain. A shared wound laid bare. Passengers shifted, some filming, others leaning in, feeling the weight of her truth. An older man, Asian in a faded windbreaker, spoke next. "Last month they moved me to another seat," he said, his voice thin but firm. "Said it was for comfort, but the guy next to me, he just didn't want me there." His hands trembled, clutching a worn boarding pass. The gate hushed, the air thick with recognition. A young couple exchanged glances, their own memories surfacing. Amara's watch ticked softly, grounding her as the man's story wove into hers, a tapestry of quiet injustices exposed under the terminal's cold lights. A woman in her 30s, curly hair tucked in a bun, hesitated, then stepped forward. "I worked for Horizon," she said, her voice shaking. 3 years. They trained us to watch for details, but they meant names, faces, accents. Her admission hit like a stone in still water. Gasps rippled, phones tilted to capture her. Karen's face drained of color. Paul Vance's hands froze on his tablet. The former employee's courage, trembling but real, cracked the airline's armor further. Amara nodded slightly, her silence amplifying the woman's bravery. Klein cleared his throat, forcing a smile. "Miss Jackson, let's resolve this privately. Our corporate jet is yours." His offer dripped with false generosity, his eyes darting to the filming crowd. Amara's voice cut through, calm but unyielding. "I don't want your jet, Mr. Klein. I want accountability." The crowd stirred, a low hum of agreement rising. Klein's assistants whispered frantically, but his charm was gone, his suit no shield against the truth. Amara stood firm, her presence a beacon for the voices now echoing around her. A young mother, stroller at her side, spoke up. "They weighed my collapsible stroller twice," she said, her voice soft but clear. "No one else's, just mine." Her toddler clutched her hand, unaware of the weight in her words. Passengers nodded, some murmuring, "I've been there." The mother's story, small but piercing, added to the growing chorus. Amara's heart ached, not for herself, but for every person who'd carried this burden alone. The gate felt warmer now, a space where pain was shared, not hidden. Amara faced Klein, her voice steady. "This flight wasn't random, Mr. Klein. It was Horizon's final test for a $4 billion, 0 cents travel contract with Novatex Global Partners." Klein's jaw tightened, his eyes widening. "After today," Amara continued, "Horizon is out." The words landed like a gavel. A man in a baseball cap clapped once, sharp and loud. Others joined, a slow ripple of applause. Klein's face crumpled, his assistants frozen. The contract's loss wasn't just money, it was Horizon's future, slipping away because of their own bias. A tall Latino man, cap in hand, spoke next. 6 times in 8 flights they flagged my ID, he said. Called it random, it wasn't. His voice was steady, his eyes tired. The crowd's murmur grew, phones capturing every word. A woman whispered, "I knew it." Amara listened, her stillness a canvas for their stories. Each voice was a thread, weaving a truth too loud to ignore. The gate's sterile walls seemed to pulse, no longer a place to wait, but a space to be heard, to be seen. An elderly white man leaning on a cane cleared his throat. "I saw what they did to you earlier," he said to Amara. "I didn't speak up, I should have." His voice cracked, heavy with regret. "I've seen it too many times." The confession hung in the air, raw and honest. Passengers turned, some nodding, others filming with purpose. His words, simple but heavy, bridged the gap between silence and action. Amara's eyes softened not in forgiveness but in recognition of his courage to speak now. The applause grew, a wave crashing over the gate. Phones lit up, videos spreading online, hashtags like Justice at 12B trending. Amara stepped back, letting the voices take center stage. A teenage girl whispered to her mom, "She's changing everything." The gate was alive, a chorus of stories rising like a tide. Amara's fight had sparked something bigger, a movement, a mirror held up to Horizon's flaws. Klein stood alone, his power fading as the crowd's strength grew, their shared pain now a shared power. These voices, each a spark, showed that standing together can topple even the tallest walls. Amara's courage lit the way, but the crowd's stories made it a fire. If their bravery moves you, share this story. Let's lift up the unheard, proving that when we speak as one, we can tear down systems that divide us. The energy at Gate 12B had transformed Meridian International Airport into a crucible of truth. Amara Jackson's stand, amplified by the passengers' voices, had turned the gate into a stage for justice. Edward Klein, Horizon Airline's CEO, stood exposed, his polished suit no shield against the weight of their stories. The crowd's applause faded, but their resolve burned bright, live streams carrying their words beyond the terminal. Amara's calm presence anchored the moment, her fight now a collective one. If you've ever wished for justice with heart, hit that like button and share this story, because true strength holds firm, even when mercy is needed. Minutes later, Amara stood in a sleek boardroom, its glass walls reflecting the tense faces of Horizon's board. Some sat in leather chairs, others joined via video, their screens flickering. Klein sat at the table's head, his silver hair disheveled, his hands flat on the glass. Amara, flanked by her legal counsel and assistant, placed a thick folder on the table. "We have evidence," she said, her voice soft but clear. "Emails, complaints, whistleblower memos, and footage." The room stilled, the folder a silent judge. A board member, gray suit crisp, coughed nervously. "What kind of evidence?" he asked. Amara opened the folder, revealing pages of data. Racial profiling reports, customer service logs sorted by ethnicity, a spreadsheet flagging certain surnames for extra checks. The board member's face paled as he scanned a memo detailing high-risk passengers. "This spans years," Amara said, her tone even. "Your systems weren't broken, they were built this way." The words landed heavy, each one a crack in Horizon's foundation. Klein's eyes locked on the folder, unblinking. "This is incomplete," he stammered, his voice thin. A woman on a video feed whispered to an aide, her screen dimming. Amara slid a page forward. "A whistleblower email from a former manager, admitting to bias training. We were told to target specific groups," it read. Gasps broke the silence. A board member's pen clattered to the table. Klein's fingers twitched, his cufflinks glinting as he gripped the table's edge. The room felt smaller, the air thick with accountability. Suddenly, Klein's face twitched, his breathing hitched, short, shallow gasps. He reached for his collar, fumbling, his tie too tight. "Bradley," he muttered, his voice strained, then slumped back, clutching his chest. A board member stood, shouting, "Call medical!" Chaos erupted, water bottles tipped, phones fumbled. A video feed cut to black. Klein's eyes fluttered, his face pale, his gasps ragged. The board froze, their power useless. Amara's heart raced, but her face stayed calm, her resolve a steady flame. Amara moved first. In 3 strides, she crossed the room, kneeling beside Klein. No hesitation, no dramatics. She loosened his tie, tilted his head gently, and checked his pulse, weak but there. "Stay with me," she said, her voice low, firm. She turned to a frozen intern in the doorway. "Get security. Tell them we need paramedics now." The intern bolted, her shoes echoing. Klein's eyes, half open, met Amara's, dazed, confused. In that moment, something flickered in his gaze, not defiance, but recognition. Paramedics burst in, their bags clattering. "Move back," one shouted, kneeling beside Klein. They checked his vitals, oxygen mask ready. Amara stepped away, her hands steady, her face unreadable. The board watched, stunned, as medics worked. Klein's breathing stabilized, his color returning. An assistant whispered, "He's okay." Amara didn't speak, didn't gloat. She'd ensured he lived, not out of kinness, but because justice isn't cruelty. Her strength was in holding power without wielding it as a weapon. The boardroom settled, medics still hovering. A board member, voice low, whispered about Klein's resignation. Another nodded, eyes on Amara. She stood by the table, her folder still open, its pages a silent verdict. "This isn't about one man," she said, her voice clear. "It's about a system you all upheld." The board shifted, some looking away, others meeting her gaze. Her words weren't loud, but they carried the weight of every story told at the gate. Amara's compassion shocked the room, redefining strength. She didn't let Klein fall, not because he deserved it, but because justice demands clarity, not chaos. Her evidence, her calm, her mercy, they were a lesson. Accountability doesn't need vengeance to win. The board's silence was her victory, their discomfort her proof. Klein, still breathing, was no longer the story. Amara was, her resolve reshaping Horizon's future. This moment, where mercy met truth, shows that justice is strongest when it lifts, not destroys. Amara's fight, rooted in pain but guided by principle, calls us to stand firm yet humane. If her story stirs your heart, share it. Let's honor those who face giants with courage and compassion, proving that real change begins when we refuse to let hate win. 6 months after Amara Jackson's stand shook Meridian International Airport, Terminal 2 felt alive with new purpose. Gone was Gate 12B's cold sterility. In its place stood Jackson Plaza, a warm, open lounge where sunlight spilled through wide windows. Murals painted by local students adorned the walls, vibrant scenes of travel and unity woven with names in countless languages. Travelers moved through, their faces softer, their steps lighter. Amara's fight had sparked a legacy, one that whispered inclusion. If her story inspires you to dream bigger, hit that like button, share this story, and subscribe, because change begins when we rise together. Jackson Plaza hummed with life. A lending library stocked with books by authors of every background sat beside a quiet room for prayer or reflection. The signage, now in 6 languages, guided passengers with warmth. A young black girl, about 10, with braids bouncing and a pink backpack slung over one shoulder, walked through the plaza, her eyes wide. Amara, in a simple navy dress, walked beside her, her presence calm but powerful. The girl's sneakers squeaked on the polished floor, her nervous energy filling the space. The murals caught the girl's eye. Bright blues and golds depicting planes soaring over mountains, hands clasped across borders. "Who made these?" she asked, her voice small but curious. Amara smiled softly. "Kids like you from schools nearby, they wanted to show what travel could mean." The girl traced a painted name with her finger, her face lighting up. Travelers paused, some snapping photos of the artwork, others reading plaques about the plaza's creation. Amara's watch ticked quietly, a steady reminder of her journey. The girl, clutching her backpack, looked up at Amara. "You really built this?" Her voice held awe, her eyes searching Amara's face. Amara knelt to her level, her dress pooling on the floor. "I helped," she said gently, "but it's yours now, everyone's." The girl's brows furrowed as if trying to grasp the idea. A family nearby watched, their toddler waving at the girl. The plaza's warmth wrapped around them, a stark contrast to the old gate's chill, where Amara had once stood alone. They reached the boarding lane, where a young South Asian agent, a rainbow pin on her lanyard, knelt to check the girl's ticket. "First time flying alone?" she asked, her smile kind. The girl nodded, shy, her backpack slipping slightly. Amara adjusted the strap, her touch steadying. "You're brave," Amara said, tapping the girl's chest lightly. "Next time, you won't just board the plane, you'll fly it." The girl's eyes widened, a spark igniting, not confidence, but possibility, a seed planted in her heart. The agent handed back the ticket, her voice warm. "You're all set, Captain." The girl giggled, her nerves easing. Travelers around them smiled, some whispering about Jackson Plaza's story, others filming the murals. Amara stood, watching the girl step toward the jet bridge, her pink backpack bouncing. The agent waved and the girl turned back, giving Amara a small, brave smile. The moment felt sacred, a quiet handoff from one generation to the next, a world inching toward fairness. Amara lingered, her gaze on the jet bridge. Passengers moved through the plaza, their voices a soft hum, Spanish, Mandarin, English blending like the mural's colors. A man in a suit paused by the library, pulling out a novel by a black author. A woman in a hijab sat in the quiet room, her face peaceful. The plaza wasn't just a place, it was a promise, born from Amara's refusal to shrink. Her fight had reshaped this space, making it a beacon for those who'd been unseen. A group of teens, sketchbooks in hand, studied the murals, their teacher explaining Amara's story. She stood up, the teacher said, and look what happened. The teens nodded, one sketching the mural's curves. Amara watched from a distance, her face soft but resolute. No press hovered, no cameras flashed. Just her, the girl, the plaza, and a quiet victory. The legacy wasn't in headlines, it was in these moments, in spaces where dignity could breathe. The narrator's voice returned, warm and earnest. This is Jackson Plaza, built from courage, not anger. Amara didn't seek revenge, she sought truth, and it changed everything. If her story moves you, share it with someone you love. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and join us in telling stories that heal, challenge, and lift up. Your support keeps our small team going, and we're grateful for every click, every comment. The plaza's light glowed, a testament to what one stand could spark. Amara's legacy showed that change doesn't always roar. It arrives quietly, boarding a plane with a pink backpack dreaming of flight. Her fight, rooted in pain but blooming in hope, teaches us that justice rises when we refuse to be small. The girl's brave steps, the plaza's warmth, the mural's colors, they're proof that standing for truth can build a world where everyone belongs. Share this story, and let's keep the fire of possibility burning for all.